As we've been speaking this week, the experience of essence, the experience of the essential, the experience of the real, is not something you do, and it's not the result of something you do. It's more accurate to say it does you, right? But even more accurate, even more correct, is to say that an experience of essence is really just an experience of yourself, as you already are. That's why there's no doing required. So essence is just what's often there, what often is experienced when the doing stops. And then we've also been mentioning how there are all these wonderful contradictions in life. And so while there's nothing that you can directly do for essence, to evoke essence, to make essence happen, to make peace or joy or love, or even that deeper sense of just pure isness, there's nothing you do that makes that be here. What you can do is be here when essence happens, when you're in the place where essence is, which of course is the present moment, here and now. That's always the one thing that is within your power, is to just experience the present moment, be in the present moment, and then find out what essence has in mind. What your true nature is doing in that moment, how it's moving, how it's expressing, or simply what it is. And so that's what all the spiritual practices, techniques, all the spiritual processes are really just ways of bringing attention to now, bringing your awareness back to now. And I'm going to speak about one, but I also want to just first of all speak a little bit about this experience of expansion and contraction, because it's kind of a thread that's also been going through our exploration together. And when you first hear about it, the expansion and contraction is really an expression of the discriminating function of essence, of awareness. It's just the way awareness registers how true things are, how real, how important. And so when something's not very real, the experience of essence, the experience of yourself, gets very small. Just because that's the correct measurement. That's the correct way to discriminate that experience. When we hear that, what we call the ego immediately thinks, "Oh, good. Now I know. Now I have this really, really super duper compass. That will make my life go so much easier if I just avoid the contractions and move towards the expansions. If only it were that simple. If only that was the point." See, that's where this simple statement of what is, that being expands and contracts in response to experience, gets turned into a how to have experiences of essence. It's like it's an overreaching to try to turn it into a way to discriminate whatever it is, how true a teaching is, whether to move to Hawaii or stay where you are, how to pick a stock, if you really want to get down to the. If it really was that useful in that way, then why not, right? Why not just get out the financial papers and pick stocks with your heart, with your being. But see, your being, it's so subtle, it's so dynamic. that it's always, always just responding to whatever's happening right now. It's always in the very instant responding to whatever's happening right now. So if you're looking at a stock and some of your greed, your fantasy of striking it rich is happening, that's what the being is going to read, not the stock. Right? Not how true it is to buy the stock. For none of us are able to hold still that long to ever get a pure reading on anything. It's always, always kind of dynamically moving, shifting with each thought, each hope, each wish, each doubt, each worry, each impulse. And so, again, the ego might think, well, then what's the point? And see, the point really of noticing whether your being is contracting or expanding is that when you're noticing that, you're noticing your being. Even if you can't necessarily apply it in a practical sense, still that's where your attention is. And so you're home, you're paying attention, including the moments when there's a sudden, in fact, very profound shift in your sense of being, a very profound expansion. Simply when you are touched very deeply by essence, by being, including those very dramatic experiences of essence of being that we call awakenings, where there is you're touched so profoundly by what you are that your old identity, your old idea of what you are just can't survive it. It just doesn't compute anymore. If you're this, how can you be this? It doesn't fit. So the invitation to be curious about your expansions and your contractions is not really about, again, making your life flow better or even giving you more spiritual experiences. It's not a means to make essence happen, to make awakening happen, to do anything of that sort. It just is itself an expression of your essence. That's the important point, the important little gem in that process, in that natural experience of expansion and contraction, is that it means you're home when the big expansions happen. But the technique, I guess you call it, the process, the practice that I wanted to speak about this morning, another process, another practice for bringing you into the present moment. That's all you can do. That's the best you can do is throw yourself into the present moment and then hope you get run over by essence. But you can't actually, just like you can't actually run yourself over with a truck. The truck has to do that, right? The truck driver. You can't run yourself over with essence. You can only throw yourself into the present moment. And one way of doing that is through inquiry. Is through questioning, through asking questions. Everything from the simplest, what about now? What's that like? These very, very simple questions about present moment experience. All the way down to a very kind of direct questioning, which is, who am I? What am I? Or even, as I suggested the first night, am I? Really getting down to the nitty-gritty. Am I? Any kind of open-ended question. Again, just like the point of noticing the expansions and contractions isn't where it gets you. The point of the questions isn't a particular place that it gets you. The point of the questions is to bring you to the present moment. And of course, the present moment is a place that you are endlessly arriving at. You never stop arriving. The journey never actually ends. The journey to the present moment, because there's always a new one. And so it's an open-ended question. And I'd actually like to suggest, and you can even kind of follow along as I suggested, suggest a particular form of inquiry. One that's very, what about now is great when you can really actually keep your attention there. So it's so wonderful when, you may have observed it in yourself and people who come up to Satsang, that you ask the question, what about now? And they start telling you about something that happened last night. What about now? Well, this week I've been feeling it's a real challenge to actually go with that question. It also can be very challenging to go with the question, who am I? What am I? That one more because it is such an open-ended question. And we're not used to that. We're used to questions that have answers. And it was actually a real problem to have a question that doesn't have an answer. That's called flunking. Talk about conditioning. 12 years at least of not feeling good when there's a question and no answer. So that question, because that question truly is like this, throwing the doors wide open to this ever-moving, ever-changing present moment. Trying to find the I in that. That's free fall in the strongest sense of the word. And so this morning I'd like to suggest another question to ask yourself right now. And that is, what do I really want? What do I really want? So what do I really want? It's and again, it's okay. It's whatever. The wonderful thing about that question again is the fact. See, it's not trying for a home run. It's more like trying to move the runners around the bases. It's what do I really want? And then whatever you come up with, right, whatever the first thing is, and it's really, really okay if it's just to get rid of my acne, to $1 million, to have a relationship, to not have a relationship, whatever it is. Because then you ask the question again. So whatever you just, whatever the first thing that pops in your mind, what do you really want? Then you ask, but what do you really want? Or another way of asking it, another way of going, just peeling the onion a little further with whatever you get with that first question, is to ask, if you got that, what would that allow? So in a sense, it's asking, what's it really about? So if you got the $1 million, what would that mean? What would that allow? What is it really about? And again, it might just be something like, well, then I could travel more. Great. So if you could travel more, what would that allow? That if you had that already, what would that allow? What is it really about? And what you find as you unpack your desires, as you unpack these wants, that the wants get more and more and more essential, basically. That eventually, it's like, well, if I could travel more, then I would have more fun. And if I could have more fun, then I would be happy. Or if I had $1 million, then I could not travel so much. I could just stay home. I could just be rested. I could just hang out. And what would that allow? Oh, well then finally I could be at peace. Right? So you can, I don't know if you can sense how that question, again, rather than taking, sometimes if you ask what do I really want, it just turns out that what you really want is peace. What you really want is to know the truth. What you really want is love. Right? Sometimes that question slices right through everything else, right, to essence, right, to a question of essence. It's still a question of essence, right? Because again, you can't, just with a question, with anything, you can't make it happen. But now at least the question is a true question, is a deep question. What do you really want? And then that's the place where then you stay. Once the question has brought you to that question, that sense of what it's really about, what really matters. Sometimes when you boil it all down, it's not even just that you can be at peace, it's just that, well, then I could just be. Right? It doesn't even matter about peace, it doesn't matter about joy, it doesn't matter, it's just like a chance to just be. If I got what I wanted, then I could just be. And so, the difference between that question and just asking what's happening now, right, is that the question kind of peels back some of the layers to the heart of now. What is really important right now? It brings you right in touch with what's... See, often if you find out that what you really want is peace, and what you're experiencing is the lack of peace. If what you really want is love, then in some sense you're experiencing the lack of love. You don't want something, we generally don't want something that we're already experiencing. Like even if you try, can you really want 2 legs? It's awkward, it's awkward to get really, to work up a really strong longing for legs. It's like, it doesn't compute, it doesn't make sense. It has to be something that the experience is incomplete. There's a sense of some emptiness, some lack, some absence. And so there you are in the present moment. This sense of lack of peace, or lack of love. Or sometimes, when you get to it's really about peace, and you just really stop and you realize, oh, well, that's really, $1 million, all that stuff, it's really just so that I can experience peace. But now that you know what it's about, and you check, there's already some peace. It's like, hey, wait a minute. I don't have $1 million and I'm feeling peace. What's wrong with this picture? So you're either going to come to a sense of lack of something or the sense of the thing. And remember I said essence moves in so many ways, touches us in so many ways, and even touches us through the experience of lack of it. Sometimes it's touching us, you could say, like I said, it's actually us, touching us, so it's kind of abstract to speak of essence as something that does something to some other thing called me, when it's actually you to start with, but experientially, it brings it down to the important questions. What about love? What about peace? What about joy? What about clarity? What about truth itself? What about being, existing, this isness, this oneness? What about that itself? If that's what you want, then is it here? And if there's more a sense of it not being here, what's that like? This process of inquiry it's really more like an art. It's like that question, what do I want? What do I really want? What's it really about? And if I had that, what would that allow? What do they call it in lawyers, that line of questioning. That's just one. It's just one possibility. Just notice what it was like right now to kind of follow along. Right? And there are just times when that's the line of questioning that really cuts through to what really matters right now. Other times that line of questioning is too directed. Right? It's kind of like it creates too much of an assumption of what things are going to be about. That it's about something lacking or wanting or something like that. And so sometimes the question just, what's it like now? Right? To just leave it totally wide open. Where it's really using the mind to go beyond the mind. It's really using the mind at something that it is good at, asking questions. To bring you to a place where your mind gets befuddled. To a place where your mind can't go any further. Which is always true when you're in the present moment. The answers to any of those questions, no matter which question you pull out, the answers always are way beyond the question, way beyond the mind. You can even sense it, even in a simple question like, what do I really want? It's like, sometimes even that will just stop you. It's like, well damn, I don't even know. What do I really want? Jeez, I never thought about that. In fact, I can't really think about that. I can't figure it out. Any answer, again, is kind of hollow, half-baked. Because you could always ask, well, but what do you really want? Even when you get down to the words, the concepts like peace and joy and happiness. It's like, oh, what you want is peace. Well, what's that? You see, the questions serve you when they bring you to a place that you don't know. But what you don't know is what's here. That's what you can never know. Not in the mind. Good news is you don't have to know it when you are it. The realizations can happen out of that. The knowings can come out of that. The awakenings can come out of that. But that doesn't change the fact that you are it. And if you lose the realization, if you forget it, if you just get busy, the real gift is the question. Because there's also always more of what you are to discover, more of what you are that you don't know yet. So how about right now? What do you really want? What do you really want? In the context of this satsang, in the context of your life right now, in the context of whatever is kind of moving in you right now, whatever emotional states or issues or concerns are kind of like bubbling up today. It's like, but in all of that, what do you want? What do you want here in Satsang? What do you want in your life? What do you want when it comes to, a problem, say, that you have, or a goal that you have, or something? What's it really about? And if you can, again, for a moment, just feel how that question, the effect it has on you, how it brings, at least relatively, brings you more and more in touch with what's here already. And what that will be is a constant surprise. Essence, the nature of essence is constant surprise. And so whatever you're uncovering in this moment, there's no right formula. Sometimes especially if it's something really juicy, the uncovering happens very gradually. Like I said, other times that you just start to ask the question and it stops you. It totally throws you into this like kind of wide-eyed wonder at this mystery that you are. At the pure strangeness of the fact that you exist. What do you really, really want?